There's a new article in Movie Maker magazine about Seed and Sparks founder Emily Best and how crowdfunding and the platform that she built with her team has changed the way that she thinks about filmmaking. And I'll leave a link because you should read her tips. And always, Emily Best and the Seed and Spark team have been an incredible game changer in terms of the fundraising landscape. And I think what I've learned so much about being part of the Seed and Spark community, and it really is a community, is just the reminder that you have to get creative when you're fundraising. There's this Hollywood playbook about going out and getting investors and this kind of traditional idea of how to fundraise and how to do things in order to make your film. And I think what's so exciting about being an indie filmmaker is that, again, you have to get creative about your solutions. You're never going to have enough resources. You're never going to have enough money or time or connections or any of the things that you're supposed to have in order to make a successful movie. And in a way, the fact that the market has collapsed and the industry is somewhat struggling, it actually creates even more opportunity and more freedom to get creative about your crowdfunding and to own your own projects and to have control over how they're made, because the purpose isn't to make money right now. The purpose is to get work done and to get it out there, to build your audience and to build your brand and to experiment and grow as a filmmaker yourself. And that's, I think, the most important thing about being an indie filmmaker and what the tools offer that we have available to us. And so, Seed and Spark, the way that they help you create your campaign and think about perks and think about creating organic perks to the themes of your project, and really focus on what your project is trying to do, who's going to want to watch your project, how do you connect to that. Again, it's just a great reminder to think outside of the box. And that can be hard. I mean, filmmaking is hard on any given day, but sometimes we think, okay, these are the steps, or that traditional approach, even though it's also frustrating because you go to an investor and they say no, and you go to, and all of that stuff. But it's a way to really focus on the things that you have control over, and you can connect with your crowd. And so that's the whole point of crowdfunding, is maximizing the contributions and the kind of collaboration of your crowd. I also like to use fiscal sponsorship. So I've been using From the Heart Productions a lot for my current film, Mustang Martha, and my previous film, Acid Test. Fiscal sponsorship allows you to offer tax deductible write-offs to people who donate. And so there, in that case, I'm not trying to maximize my crowd with $20 donations, because a $20 donation isn't going to give much of a write-off. I'm trying to go for people who might be investors or have that kind of level of money, but would benefit from a tax write-off. Other ways to think about creative financing is there have been some films recently um, based out of Austin, Sing Sing and The Jockey, by the same group, that they've been doing a most favored nations approach to their budgeting, where everybody gets paid the same rate, typically kind of based on SAG scale. And then everybody in the crew gets points. There's collaborative filmmaking ideas. There's collectives, these different film collectives that are coming together and pooling their resources and clubs and things like that to get their projects done. Another filmmaker out of Austin, Bryan Poyser, he just did his last feature film using the resources that he had as an instructor at Texas State. So these are things, and people, so many of the iconic indie films that we love were self-financed. I mean, Cassavetes, one of my students in my film history class this past summer, was researching Black Girl. That was self-financed. I know people look down on that, and there's been a whole lot of talk with Francis Ford Coppola's Megalopolis, but it's like he can do whatever he wants. I mean, he literally said that recently about recutting it. And he has that control and he has that agency to make his work. And I think it's silly to judge people on how they get their work done because at the end of the day, they got their project done. And that is what matters. So think about the resources that you have available. Think about how you can get creative. And sometimes you have to zig in order to zag. You know, you have to, it's not a straight line. There isn't a traditional approach. There's no ladder. There's no, pool of money waiting at the end of a rainbow. You have to get creative and you have to go out and find it. You have to think outside of the box. And it's every film is its own startup. It's very entrepreneurial. And so you have to kind of have that mindset where you're thinking about things in a slightly different way and thinking about ways to finance creatively. And it is creative. Every time it's one of the reasons why I ended up producing is because people didn't want to produce. They didn't want to deal with things like budgets and schedules and, finding money and it's like, but if you're not going to do that or if you're not willing to do it, then your project's not going to get done.